So currently the problem that we're trying to solve is a very common problem that people with limited mobility face when trying to go outside and find out accessible information about an unfamiliar neighborhood. They currently try to find information through trials and errors or through words of mouth. And as we can tell already, this method is not very effective, and it oftentimes lead to people develop a fear of going outside, as well as decreased level of independence and activity, as well as a decrease in overall life quality.
So we first thought about this problem at Hackett Youth Hackathon when we spoke with people with disabilities and figured out that sometimes it's really hard for them to navigate streets in Seattle because normally they do not know whether there is a curb ramp, whether the elevator they are going to use is working, and whether there is construction.
I mean, the short version of the problem that we're addressing in this team is that the Access Map project doesn't have any native apps like iOS apps or Android apps. And those are valuable to us because they make it much easier for users to interact with our application. And ease of use and convenience are really important when it comes to using our type of application, which is a mapping application.
So our initial goal during Hack the Commute Hackathon was to display the difficulties, the problems our users may face. For example, the construction, elevators, elevation change, curb ramps, all these important pieces helped our users to understand how they can navigate around the city in a safer and a faster way.
To address this need, we are working with the Seattle Access Map to create an iOS application to provide users with limited mobility a means to get accessible information as well as obstacles that they might care about when navigating an unfamiliar neighborhood. Hopefully, this would provide our users a convenient way to get accessible information on the go, as well as a means to navigate an accessible route from one place to another.
We started out by defining user cases and creating storyboards to visualize the scenarios in which our app would be used. We identified three main user groups: manual wheelchair users, power wheelchair users, and users of other mobility aids, such as crutches or walkers. This helped us to gain a better idea of the needs which we were targeting in our app. We did all of our development in Xcode, which is an Apple application for developing iOS apps. We interacted with two main components: the storyboard, which is where we would make changes to the user interface, and the code, which is where we would implement the functionality of the app. And in between testing on an actual phone, we would test on the Xcode simulator, which you can interact with as though it were basically an actual phone. And it will display all of the changes that we have just made to Xcode. In the development process was to get all of the data to display on the app. We were given APIs to pull in information about the coordinate locations of bus stops and curb ramps, and use the Mapbox SDK to display markers at these locations. The next main step was to add the routing functionality, which allowed users to enter a destination, select the type of user they are, and find an accessible route to that given location. Finally, we added several other features, such as providing the ability to toggle which features are displayed on the map, and creating a basic report function, which allows the user to report new data back to the developer. Okay, so the here button takes us to our current location. And then the legend button displays information about how to read the map. And then the destination you can enter the place that you want to get to, like Northgate.
Now I'm gonna do a task for accessible map. Here is what I'm gonna do. First of all, I tap the accessible map, and then it's open. I wanna go to the Mercer Court. Now I'm typing my address.
So I was one of the developers of the Access Map team, and I collaborated with Alan, our other developer, to get information from the APIs and display them on the map. So we got curb ramps, bus stops, and lines indicating the elevation change of sidewalks onto the base map. And I also worked on getting the legend function of the app, where users can click on the legend in order to see information about how to read the map. And I also worked on the ability to toggle on and off the curb ramps, bus stops, and elevation data, and also the report function where users can tap on a location on the screen and enter some text and send that as a report to the developer, who can then add this to their database and show this on the map for future users.
So my part in this project is the user experience researcher and designer. I communicate with the stakeholder, learning about the current project that they have on the website, and also go out and talk with end user, including physical therapists. I conduct interview with them and see what they actually need in an application like this. After that, I go home, develop prototype and mockup, and use it to do user testing to gather feedback, and provide this for our developer to develop the application.
Hi, my name is Alan, and I'm one of the two developers in our team. So my part of the role is basically figure out how we start this project by explore how to display the map on the phone, and then also how to make the curb cuts showing on the phone. And my next task is to basically make a route showing on the phone with the latest elevations and those curb cuts there. That's basically what I does there.
So my part in this project was I was acting as a user experience researcher mostly, and I would say consultant, because we checked in with the group on a once in a week, and we discussed what problems our users may face and what can be a better approach to these problems. I really enjoyed working with the group because I was impressed by the thoughtful questions they asked me about the user, and I really liked how they tried to better understand the problem itself. And it's hard because you need to communicate with users and you need to find a better way to approach them and to ask the right questions.
Okay, so for this project with this group, my role is as a stakeholder and hopefully as a helpful advisor in helping the team, first of all, understand what our needs are and what we require to get the iOS app working how we need it, as well as provide hopefully technical support in terms of how to actually make these things work, because there's a lot of tools particular to using maps and apps and stuff that we're familiar with, and also hopefully just helping out with how to get these kinds of things done.
Some of the constraints and limitations that we faced were, first of all, just that all of us are completely new to iOS development, and that meant that there was a very steep learning curve for all of us, both on the technical side and the design side. And we had to spend a lot of time not necessarily contributing to the features, but just getting used to the development process and the tools that we were using to create the app. And the second major constraint was just timing, because we had 2 months to implement an entire app, and that made it very challenging to implement features at the same time as we were doing user testing on the side. Working on the Access Map team was a really good experience. First of all, the people were really nice. Like, I really enjoyed working with my teammates, Ann and Alan, and also with our stakeholders, Nick and Veronica, who were both very helpful. And the development work was also very rewarding because it was challenging at first, just experiencing the steep learning curve of learning something new, but as you got better and better at it, and as you practiced more and more, you would find things getting faster to do, and that was really rewarding. And just seeing the end product was also a great feeling, to feel like we had accomplished a lot in 2 months. And I think that the Access Map app is also just a really cool product. I like the feeling that we are working on something that is really going to impact the lives of underserved populations, and it's really addressing a legitimate need of those people.
So the experience to working in this team is very fun. First, because we are developing a iOS application, which is new to everyone in our team. So the learning of the new languages and new processes are very interesting there. And secondly, I think the project itself is very meaningful because it helps some mobility impaired people being able to find the route to the place they want to go to. So it gives them more freedoms and more confidence in their life, which I find is very good. Third, I feel my teammates is very nice. So we basically have a very happy time when we work together. And fourth is it gives me a full cycles of how a product developed to the finals and make me growing up a little more. So if you want to have fun, then you come to this capstone.
Working with the Access Map project, first of all, because I got the chance to work with people from interdisciplinary team, and also I got to see how different people with different perspective feel and think and approach a problem. Secondly, this is a project that I've been wanting to work on for a long time. Consider myself as a person with a limited mobility, so I can see how frustrating it is navigating unknown terrain.
My experience working with this group has been really good. They've been able to get a lot done, first of all. We started out with nothing, and they've been able to develop a full iOS application that can actually display all the information that we need to display and do routing functionality. So all the bare bones are there, and that's really what we needed. So we've basically already reached our main goals, I would say, for the term. And then working with everyone has been also great. They know when to ask questions. They've been able to train themselves a lot on things, and as well as get help from me or not as needed. And yeah, it's been a very good experience.
So I was checking in with the group once a week to discuss the user problems and to find a better way to nail down the problem. I really enjoyed working with the team because they asked really good questions and they tried to understand the user and the problem. And sometimes I was, well, not so impressed, but I was surprised by the questions they asked. And it was really a good experience for me because that allowed me to think the problem through from a different perspective.